Hello and welcome to Annie's Corner. So I'm Anne Macedo. I talk about a lot of things, especially technology, music, and whatever comes in my mind. So today I want to talk a little bit about not just OK Computer, one of my favorite albums ever, but also about Serial Experiments Lain and Koyaanisqatsi, and I'm going to try to make some connections about it. So, um, let's talk first about OK Computer. So, and hold on. So, um, I have this videos record over here called Meeting People is Easy. So, it was recorded back when they were, um, back when they were recording the album, the OK Computer. And I find the visuals so interesting. Like, it's very late 90s kind of thing, and it has some eerie vibe to it. Um, it's an interesting VHS. However, it doesn't play in my VCR because it's from Europe, and my VCR is from America. So there used to be those things where you couldn't actually buy something from Europe and try to play on a record player or a television in Brazil, for example. But I have this vinyl record for a K computer. I just discovered that it was broken, like one of the records. It was broken, but thankfully the rest are okay. They didn't suffer any harm. But I love this. Your target market. It's very interesting. So, how can I talk about this album to begin with? Um, I I came across Radiohead when I was like um 8 years old or something. So I was very young. I was a kid, and they were going to play here in Brazil. And the band that was quite successful back then, that everybody was listening, was Coldplay. So I know you can come with your pitchforks and say Coldplay is not like Radiohead, but they are. They somehow are, especially the first album, Pablo Honey. But then they kind of went down some other roads with like the bands and finally OK Computer. Like OK Computer is something so different and so beloved, but so it has its cult following. So it's kind of interesting. But then Radiohead was going to play here in Brazil in 2009, and I remember MTV would play their music videos like at night, and I was with my mom, and my mom, she loved Radiohead, so she loved them, and we were watching those videos, those video music videos together, and that was kind of magical. Like, it was probably some Saturday or something, and my dad brought some um like pizza or something, and we were watching television and watching um Radiohead because they had this celebration of sorts about Radiohead on MTV. So, and also back then there was some video game, I think Rock Band, which featured Creep from Radiohead. So I instantly, even though I was like 8 or 9 years old, or maybe 10 years old, I instantly resonated with that song because it was like, hey, I'm a nerdy. I'm a nerd. I'm weirdo. I'm autistic. And that song was pretty much me. I mean, it was depressing, and it's interesting how an 8-year-old person could recognize that they were depressed. Um, but I recognized that this song was depressing and sad, even though I didn't really know so much about English. Like I understood what creep was and what weirdo was, and the song had the like it had that really depressing vibe, depressing mood kind of thing. But let's talk about OK Computer. So as a teenager, I started listening to a lot of like music from Radiohead, especially the OK Computer album, like downloaded from the internet probably. Like my dad used to download albums in like peer-to-peer applications or something, and he would have this huge collection of like music that he got from the internet, and one of those was Radiohead OK Computer. So I pushed this song to my MP3 player, and I would like listen to it when I was depressed mostly. So I would listen to Is It Music for a Film, which is really depressing and really sad. Paranoid Androids. What else? I'm not sure what else. But then as a teen, I stumbled across In Rainbows. I started downloading music like from torrents. So like peer-to-peer stuff. So I would download Radiohead's discography and listen to In Rainbows, and In Rainbows was fantastic. And I remember seeing some theory that if you do some binary code between OK Computer and In Rainbows, the songs they sync up because they were like 10 years apart. And it's kind of interesting, like really interesting like theory. And then I remember in 2017 I got really obsessed with Radiohead because in 2016 I found a lost music video for Letdown. So it's in my blog post. It's kind of interesting too. It's another story, like something completely unrelated that I can talk about in other video or something. But in 2017 or 2018, I was really obsessed. So that's when I got this record, OK Computer record that I have. And it was interesting because I bought it on Waze headquarters and they didn't have a shipping code. So I waited for like 6 months or so, and then they finally delivered. Like I thought it was lost forever, but no, they actually delivered my record. So I was really happy. And they have some other songs that weren't released. And interestingly, back in 2019, I think, some hacker got into like Tom York personal, like he somehow got mini discs from Radiohead from the recording sessions, and I was so obsessed that I downloaded that, and then Radiohead released the raw mini discs in Bandcamp, so you would like buy the records for like the mini discs for like $15 or so, and they would donate for like climate activists, which was like really interesting or something. I don't recall the story, so if I say something that doesn't match to the facts, I apologize, but I don't recall exactly the things. So, and recently I watched the Serial Experiments Lain anime. So, um, it's one of my favorite animes, aside from Neon Genesis Evangelion. I think they're part to part. Like they really tackle some interesting themes on their own, but they are like some of the best animes ever made for me. Like the ones that I liked so much. Like they are really good. And Serial Experiments Lain, if you haven't watched it already, it was made like in late 90s, just as OK Computer was releasing, and when this beauty over here also released, 1999, 1997 or something. um so and when it released, you know, internet was something so different from what it is nowadays. um and Well, Sir Experiments Lane talks about the anxieties of modern life, the anxieties of being connected, and the anxiety of losing a sense of self. So it's kind of interesting. I highly recommend for you to watch it. Maybe watch it twice. Maybe if you are not very well mentally, then do not watch it, because it talks about a lot of like complicated themes. But it's really interesting, and really I highly recommend that anime, because, well, I'm going to talk a bit about the story of the anime. Um, it talks about this girl called Ling Iwakura, and she is just a your regular, like, um young, like, school girl or something, and her friends, they're into computers, because everybody's into computers on that, like, um on that on her high school, aside from her, except for her. So she she has this, like, there's this colleague from her that dies, but then she receives email from that person after she died. So what is that? She starts digging into that rabbit hole about getting herself connected, because she received the email. So she starts getting more and more connected. And, well, the internet on her world, it's called Wired. So the Wired is basically what we have as the internet here. Um, but she gets herself too much connected, like too connected. Like she starts talking to a lot of people all around the world on the internet, and she starts connecting herself, not only mentally, not only like psychologically, but also physically. And she has this persona, this internet persona, this wired persona, the Link of the Wired. So, and it's totally different from her personality, like offline. And it's kind of interesting. Like, the show is so interesting. There's some interesting stuff about like how memories are formed, like how memories work, and how, like, philosophically, how you think about people, how do people exist in your mind. So it's kind of like dichotomy kind of thing, like, I think therefore I am. So if you think therefore you are, if everybody knows that you exist, then you exist. But if nobody remembers you, and not even yourself knows who you are, then who are you? Do you exist? Are you still there? Do you still exist? So it's kind of interesting and really philosophical. I highly recommend. And going back to OK Computer, so OK Computer doesn't really talk so much about computers. It's just a title. Although they have this song called Fitter Happier, which is a Macintosh, like one of those probably, with speech synthesizer talking about life, like modern life, and how to be a pig in the cage of on antibiotics. So it's kind of like, hey, you have to follow all those rules and you have to do all those things in order to fit in society. And we are somehow getting controlled by the algorithm. Like if you come back to like 2020s, this is the reality. The reality is dictated by the algorithm. So if um you have to do regular exercise at the gym 3 days a week because the algorithm told you so, a screen told you so. Um you have to actually, let me see. You have to be more productive. You have to be comfortable. You have to not drink so much. At ease, a patient better driver, regular exercise at the gym 3 days a week. And there's a lot of like interesting stuff about this song because it's so robotic and it kind of shifts the mood between one part of the album and the other. And as I mentioned, this album is a lot about anxiety and paranoia, about, life, modern life, not just internet, not just computers. I mean, computers are a central part of why this album is so interesting, even nowadays. But it doesn't talk about computers. It's not like Kraftwerk, where they talk about like computer world, or computer love. It's not that. I mean, there's a song called Paranoid Android. That's the only thing that really has something to do with like robots and computers and technology. And it's not even about computers, but maybe about, like, the title is probably something a play on the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, maybe. Um, so it's interesting how you can feel in the illustrations, in the marketing material for OK Computer, and on the mood of the album and the context where the album was created, because it was like early World Wide Web, like late 90s thing where the internet, the .com bubble came up. So it's interesting. Like, it's really, really interesting to look at it. And if you see nowadays, well, we are in the brain rot society. We are so much into content and generating so much countless content that we are going to, it's going to break at some point. And I'm afraid of it, like when it breaks. I'm not sure what is going to break, but something will break at some point. I'm not sure if it's the climate, if it's politics. What is going to be the big problem of this century? But I know that the computer is behind this. But, well, they warned us somehow in their own way. In OK Computer and Sir Experiments Lain, in Matrix. But it's so difficult to understand like exactly what is going on. So you may come across this video while mindlessly brain rotting yourself on YouTube. Hopefully not. Please do not. But, well, we are living in this economy of attention kind of thing, where attention is money, and attention is so, like, first it was information. Like, information was the, like, the information was like the the thing that made profit, the thing that we would sell. And some people they sell love, like Tinder or Bumble. Some people they sell information about other people, like Facebook. Uh, and at some point, privacy was a big concern, but now I don't even think privacy is a big concern about like nowadays, but rather generating content is the big concern because it's making us feel crazy and making us sick. And of course, like it's like late capitalism going on. It's trying to find things because it's going to break at some point. There's going to be crisis after crisis in capitalism, so they need to find another thing to sell, and one of those things that they're selling is attention, because it's so rare nowadays. It's so difficult to have attention because our brains are hardwired into this mass of like lots of things. So, and now I'm going to make a link with the 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 movie Koyaanisqatsi. So Koyaanisqatsi is another interesting movie, and this video is so long already. But Koyaanisqatsi is really interesting because it talks about life out of balance. So there's like some interesting visuals about like fields and calmery. I'm not sure if calmery is the word, but it's like calm, fields, nature, and then comes the city and comes Pretty Goy, like one of the biggest slums of like New York or something. And the grid, like people going around in cars and cars and cars going, cars pass by, and people are going all the way, and they are on the trains, they are watching TVs, they are watching screens, they are watching the stocks. There's like stock market and a bunch of things. Like modern life is weird. Modern life is so difficult because of all those things. We have to pay attention to all those things. We're getting sick. We're getting so sick. And how do we get out of that? I'm not sure. But we are sick. So thank you for your attention. I'm going to leave you with this brain worm of sorts. You keep on thinking. Try to come up with a solution. I just rambled, but thankfully I made my point. I kind of like, linked OK Computer with Koyaanisqatsi and Sir Experiments Lain. So I hope you like it. If you don't, I don't care. No, sorry. Just if you don't like it, give me some good like feedback down below. But if you like it, hit like, share with people. I'm just doing the basic YouTube kind of thing, but I don't like it so much because I'm not a YouTuber. I just like to ramble and ramble and ramble and talk about the things that I like. So see you next time. Goodbye.